Howdy, folks. Your host, Double J, host of Operation GCD. Also, not to be forgotten, not the vice president. Thanks for joining us here for Fridaze with my co-host, Nick of the Occult Rejects. Nick, greetings, sir.
Greetings. Good Friday, sir. How are you?
Happy Fridays to you as well. We got ourselves a real barn burner on deck here with the good Dr. Inferno. Welcome, Dr. Inferno, as our guest this evening here on Fridays.
Always good to be here.
Host of Dementi Mori podcast and routine guest on Operation GCD and the Farm podcast. I always appreciate your insight there, Doc. I know you've shared the Operation GCD shows there with Nick, so you guys have certainly met. So there's no introduction there, but I'm not sure if he's so familiar with your work as I am, nor the many discussions we've had. You know, you and me offline, but you brought up some great feedback following the well organized and very informative show there on the Zizians.
Zizian.
On Occult Rejects.
Zizians, yeah.
The trans cult sponsored by the Zen tobacco people, right?
Definitely not by me though.
The zing is.
No, so I appreciate all that some of that feedback. I know you have a lot of you got a lot of understanding on the background of some of these homicidal cult trans Tifa situations popping off these days. What I like to call the transpocalypse, you know, Buffalo Jared Revisa.
The more I look into it, the more that I'm still like dumbfounded when it comes to this whole case. This ordeal is like very perplexing and probably is going to give us information and content for time memorial. No doubt the many countless of lame true crime podcasts that's probably going to result from this as well, and probably the Netflix deal as well. So, you know, it's
from the
never
Zizians?
ending. Yeah, on the Zizians. And the Rationalists.
Have we heard the last of them? I feel like we haven't heard the last of them.
No.
Has the tale been told
I don't
yet?
think so. Well, the thing about the Zizians is I don't think people forget that the whole rationalist community is kind of primed for cultic activity. It's not just the Zizians, but it's sort of like the inception of the rationalist universe already in itself had baked in the cake pretty much the makings of a modern day cult. Yeah. So, yeah, it has pretty much it pretty much has like it already baked in the cake, along with its like founder Eliezer Yudkowsky is no doubt had a cult presence as well. And if you don't know, it started out from like the Singularity Institute, which I'm pretty sure people are familiar with. If you go all the way back to Singularity Institute, it started out as a news group, and it piggybacked off.
Is that Ray Kurzweil?
Yeah, Ray Kurzweil was involved actually in the early inception of the Rationalists.
He's a creepy son of a bitch.
Yeah, he is. What's interesting about him, and they don't often mention this particular figure, which I did on like the Farm episode. You know, I covered this guy named Michael Asinov. And this is an interesting figure that a lot of people in other podcasts have not touched upon. This is one of the guys that kind of wrote off the neo-reactionary and also is affiliated with many of the alt-right. And what's interesting about this guy is he had a GeoCities way back like in the early aughts. He had this GeoCities site, and he was kind of one of the earliest adapters of Ray Kurzweil's Singularity. And what people don't know is the Singularity itself was adopted from these people called the Extropians. And the Extropians, what's interesting about them is they're actually a spin-off group of the Discordians. People don't know that.
Oh, really? I did not know that because I've actually read that bullshit book by Kurzweil, The Singularity is Near.
A lot of these conceptions about transhumanism, about life extension, and also about AI, a lot of it comes from people wanting to extend their life and to live basically forever, and augmenting that with artificial intelligence.
But where's the Discordian connection there? I've never heard of these things. That sounds very interesting. I didn't realize they were so deep into tech, but that makes a lot of sense to me given some of their other situations.
The Discordians is kind of just a mockery of like religion and spirituality, as people know, that was started by Kerry Thornley. But the extropians are people that took what the
Well, hold on, let's hold that thought real quick for a second there, because I think the Discordians are slightly. I think they're slightly more than that. They're especially when you look at Thornley, the guy's steeped in all sorts of shenanigans in life, right? So, yeah, I agree with
but
you.
I mean,
What was it created for? You know what I mean? It's a chaos cult, right?
yeah, it pretty much is. It's kind of also a mockery of, I guess, organized religion. I mean, that's kind of a reductionist take
Oh,
on
it definitely is for sure.
Discordians.
It's the inversion of religion. I think that's why they fit well within that processing Satanist crowd back then, with Kerry Thornley specifically, and a lady named
Yeah,
Barbara
yeah,
O'Neill, the
yeah.
Satanist processing, and both were involved in the Garrison investigation. I didn't know they had all these tech relationships. So what was the offshoot of that you were calling it? The
The
extortionists?
extortionists, extropians. And of course, the extropians, they, like I said, they were into life extension, they were into transhumanism, and they took it a little further. They were more scientifically inclined and more embracing of transhumanism, which really goes back to cryogenics. With a lot of the transhumanists, that's really where a lot of the stuff like Kurzweil and some of the earliest, they were into cryogenics, freezing, the body, the brain, and then putting
Sure.
it upon a supercomputer. And fundamentally, they believe they could upload the soul into an AI and live forever, basically.
They got Mickey Mantle with that, didn't they? One of them ball players, right? Didn't they try to freeze that dude for a while? Or maybe it was, Carl Yastrzemski. I don't remember. I'm not good at my ball players. One of them old dudes like Walt Disney, though, got frozen, I believe. One of them old ball players.
Yeah, they put their brain in a vault.
So when these extropian, I see what you're saying about these. Some of this stuff came from the extropian folks, because they're already saying that extropian thinking places strong emphasis on rational thinking. Now, and to my understanding, this whole rationalist movement you were referring to, it has a different definition of the term rational.
Well, rationalist is really about AI alignment. So it's basically about taking rationalist ideas and aligning it with AI, so AI will not theoretically destroy humanity. That's basically rationalist thinking in a nutshell. And it goes even further back to people like Jonathan Bentham, who was a utilitarian philosopher. And from there's a guy named Peter Singer. I believe in your last episode you were talking about the malaria nets. Well, that's a these people like study sort of existential risk, and also they try to couple this with with sort of ethics, moral ethics. And part of their pet project is giving malaria nets to the global south, to the people in the global south will have a better life. So this is like part of a whole convoluted sort of thought experiment. So all these like rationalists, it's really just a bunch of convoluted thought experiments which talk about human rationality. That's pretty much what rationalism is.
If I'm gonna be honest with you, I appreciate that was a good explanation. As that's kind of what I grasped from it, what you're saying there, and I appreciate the explanation. But none of this sounds rational to me.
It doesn't, but I mean, it's a lot of it. I realize that's why I say it's convoluted to a lot of people, because when you talk about these sort of things, people in their everyday life, this doesn't really have much bearing. So that's why they created something like CFAR. They created something like CFAR, Center for the that's for like exploring like rationality and everyday use in people. So let me go back to Eliezer Yudkowsky. Okay, Eliezer Yudkowsky started off as an Orthodox Jew. I'm not exactly sure where he's from, but he decided from a very early age. And by the way, if you read anything about Eliezer Yudkowsky, it really they really like play him up. He plays himself up. He says that he likes to think of himself as the savior of humanity. He likes to think that his sort of rationality and AI alignment. By the way, he's self-educated. He's not a person who's had any kind of formal training on any kind of machine learning or any kind of artificial intelligence. So basically, he thinks AI is going to turn into this. If it's not, we don't intervene with AI, it's going to turn into this disastrous sort of machine which is going to destroy humanity. And he's written about this countless times. This is highly controversial in the AI community, because a lot of people like people like Godel. Godel is very famous for like the strange loop hypothesis, which I won't go into, but I just have to mention it really quick, where he says that AI pretty much is not intelligent at all. It's really presupposed, and it doesn't have any preemptive sort of cognition. But Eliezer Zizian thought that it would be wise to really get ahead of this whole sort of problem. So let me go to Zizian. He started the Singularity Institute. It started out just as a newsletter, just as a news group on Usenet during the 90s. And this would have people, contributors like the Extropians. This would have people who were into HBD, which is human biodiversity, which is some of the accusations of racism has been levied against the Singularity Institute.
Racist?
There's people like, yes.
It's not like white nationalism?
Not white nationalists, but people believe that there are sort of genetic differences amongst groups of people.
So that makes you a racist to point out the obvious?
I mean, I'm just reporting what they say about the people that are into HBD. But HBD was
just real quick. Sorry to interrupt you. That is something that has always blown me away with certain things. Like Ray Charles can see certain fucking shit. It's so obvious. But if you point it out,
that's what I'm saying.
Like if you mention that an Asian's eyes look smaller than ours, which a fucking blind motherfucker can see, all of a sudden you're racist. But it's fucking obvious and in your face. Why is that shit racist? It's
I'm just saying
obvious. I'm just saying. No, you just got me thinking, just in general, because what JJ said, I think is true. You know, someone's fucking 500 pounds. Damn, that person's big. Oh, you're fat shaming. No, it's fucking obvious. She's fucking fat. You can't not see that. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that.
You don't see a lot of you don't see a lot of Scots Irish folk winning endurance competitions. That's all I'm telling you. We're not built for the long run, you know. Short burst, good to go there. Strength, okay. You know, good to go there. Endurance, not happening, pal. I sink like a damn rock in the water, dude. I could, you know, put me in a swimming pool, try to make a race, dude. I'm not winning anything.
Oh, fuck, man. I'm bald, I'm short, and I'm fucking hairy. I don't give a fuck. You can make jokes about it. It is what it is. It's fucking Italian. Give me a break. Like, I'm going to get upset about it. It's fucking obvious. I can't hide it.
Right. So there is no other white nationalism rooted in these theologies you're telling me, or philosophies you're telling me there, Doc. It's just simply the accusations around pointing out the obvious.
A lot of the alt-right have latched on to stuff like HBD, but HBD has been around for a very long time, which, you know, it has like kind of a nasty history of stuff like eugenics, which I won't get into on this particular stream, but that's sort of the accusations that is made about it. That plays in later to when the Zizians feel that the MRI and the Singularity Institute and what will become the later institutions accusations of like transphobia and sexual misconduct, etc.
Interesting. So as far as AI goes, this is my viewpoint. If I may share that with you here before you get into this AI business, my viewpoint is AI is about 3,000 fellows sitting over there in New Delhi, India, typing away on a computer, you know, powering the AI. You know what I mean? It's a bot farm. You know what I mean? Of, you know, folks in China and India.
So further, a lot of Yudkowsky's ideas also piggyback off a guy named Nick Bostrom, who came up with this book called.
I know Nick Bostrom.
Nick Bostrom was an active participant early on in the newsletter, and later he would be present at a lot of the Singularity Institute conferences, which were initially sort of managed by this guy named Michael Asinanov, who is this white Russian immigrant that is from the Bay Area that, like I said, had an early connection to Kurzweil. Kurzweil would be at a lot of these sort of early conferences as well. And one of the people that this is where Yudkowsky got the attention of Peter Thiel, of course. And Peter Thiel decided to throw his money around and invest in the Singularity Research Institute, which I believe it later became another very prominent sort of blog and kind of think tank.
Sure. Well, this Nick Bostrom fellow, he seems very important, just not in the world of AI. I didn't realize he was viewed in as an AI kind of godfather there.
Yes.
Because he came up with the baseline theory that everyone cites today, that we live in a simulation. Because this dude over in Oxford in 1998 said, hey, what if we live in the simulation? It's more, and he said, if it's true, then more likely than we live in the simulation as opposed to the original one. We live in one of the replications just by the odds. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is some transhumanist nonsense. So it makes a lot of sense to me what you're saying.
Yeah, the later would be less wrong, and I think also off less wrong would there would be something called overcoming bias, which gave us, of course, Curtis Yarvin, aka Mencius Moldbug, which he wrote about. Which Mencius Moldbug is very prominent now in the Trump administration through J.D. Vance. He's one of like the thought leaders in.
Why don't I know the name Curtis Yarvin though? What's that dude do?
Well, it's because of neo-reaction. Neo-reaction actually dovetails heavily off the Singularity Institute because they were like active participants in a lot of the rationalists. A lot of the rationalists sort of fed off neo-reactionary ideas, and that's where you get sort of the alt-right connection to the rationalist. Although it's been greatly exaggerated to the extent to where how much active participation they had. But Curtis Yarvin was openly communicating with Yudkowsky, and of course, Yudkowsky was and also later, I believe Scott Thompson with Starfleet, the Starfleet, kind of not Starfleet, but Starfleet Codex or whatever that that group was called.
So if I'm hearing you correct there, Doc, it sounds like these Zizians, they came from a kind of a mash together of these MRI AI folks in the Singularity Institute and Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin's accelerationism, right?
Well, it's not so much that they're a fusion of this. It's just that a lot of these people were like loose confederations of people that had different ideologies, and sort of they did mesh together to eventually develop.
MIRI though, I do question that. There was, I think, like 3 or 4, possibly, right?
I think there was only one, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I think maybe there's something where 2 or 3 I do know matched somewhere on something.
Well, the MRI is kind of a misnomer. It's just basically all MRI is just feeding artificial intelligence certain stimuli and sort of neural links and feedback loops, basically programming the AI to go through these sort of hypothetical ethical models, which is what Eliezer Yudkowsky and some of his cohorts were trying to do. Yeah, the CCRU. That's correct.
But isn't it? You were describing to me long before these trans Tifa assassins murk folks in multiple states in a murderous campaign here recently, the Zizian cult, that is. You were telling me, a couple years ago that this Yarvin fella and Land were the kind of the philosophers to the kind of the neo-satanic movement, like the Order of the Nine Angles, right?
Not exactly. Nick Land had this thing called the Xeno system, and the Xeno system relied heavily upon the occult, along with science and philosophical models. So it's really convoluted, and like I said, it would take like a whole entire other podcast to kind of explain what Nick Land was getting at.
Right, but as far as the accelerationism goes, right? Isn't that where all this stuff? Isn't that? I mean, when I look at the Zizian cult, it looks, and to me, I see it no different than, what my understanding of this accelerationism is.
Well, Nick Land's initial acceleration is a little different than what the accelerationism of like the O9A and some of the Atomwaffen and far right types. His theoretical accelerationism. He is the godfather of accelerationism, but how much influence he had upon the far, because like his model is different. He wants to use like an economic model, and he wants to do something like hyper capitalism to bring about accelerationism, as opposed to a lot of people on the far right want to take the conditions and they want to take racial tension and accelerate it to where it brings about their new existence, their new sort of whitopia.
Right, but isn't this the same old stuff? Is the newer folks, the folks who read these ideas, just bend it and shape it in their own capacity?
Nick Land is, yeah, that's true. Nick Land is not an identitarian, though, like a lot of the far right or racialist accelerationist.
Well, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So it seems like, where did this stuff get rooted in the Zizian cult? Then how did they get embedded with these philosophies and their cult worldview?
Well, I wouldn't say there was any direct influence on the Zizians per se. There may have been some connections via through Jessica Katta, who was somewhat of a Vassarite. Michael Vassar was more of an influence on her as the other Zizians. So I think
Who's that?
Go ahead.
Who's Michael Vassar? I've never heard that name before.
Michael Vassar was one of the people that was heavily involved with he sort of joined the Singularity Institute and what would become later the MIRI, the Machine Learning Institute. And he would actually be, one of his connections actually is also Michael Asimov, who is this shadowy figure that no one in the media is talking about. But they were like very close at one time and kind of instrumental to introducing Michael Vassar to like the Singularity Institute.
Are you saying Michael Asimov, like Isaac Asimov?
No, it's like Asimov.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought at first.
Oh man, wait a second here. We got to look into this guy. ASI what?
It's I can't exactly spell it, but it's ANISSINOV. He's like a white Russian immigrant.
Okay, I found him. Thank you. That is a weird name, dude. I've never seen that before. Like to buy a vowel for this name. So this dude's a very shadowy figure, huh? He looks like he's into this, transhumanism stuff, going back to writing books in 2015.
Yes.
It appears.
Yes, he was very. He actually was. Ray Kurzweil, according to him, Ray Kurzweil approached him, and he sort of was very instrumental in like assigning a lot of those conferences and managing a lot of those early conferences with the Singularity Institute.
Yeah, I see that right here in an article from 2005. Is a singularity analyst and advocate. That's a very broad statement right there. He's interested in futurist issues.
Yes.
Especially the interrelationships between accelerating change. That sounds like accelerationism. Nanotechnology, transhumanism, and the creation of smarter than human intelligence. So, especially when you're saying things to me like there's some Discordian kind of a hierarchy to the origins of some of this stuff, it makes you wonder, because all these organizations and the neo-satanic movement specifically love transhumanism, specifically the process.
Let me also qualify that a little bit. When I say extropians, they're more like the Robert Anton Wilson instead of the Kerry Thornley type of Discordians. So they're more into the Church of the Subgenius than the initial sort of Discordians. It's just that all these.
You mean Bob Dobbs' ancient alien cargo cult, the Church of the Subgenius?
Yes.
You're not making. Yeah. I appreciate the explanation, but you're not making these folks sound any better in my mind.
I'm not trying to make them sound better. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying. But you're better off leaving it Robert Anton Wilson. Bob Dobbs is a far more shadowy and mysterious character, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, they kind of just feed off one another.
I see that. Yeah.
So what I'm just saying, like the internet in the 90s, like the internet presently, a lot of these things sort of they fuse together. They form these like weird cults, and I think in the future the internet's probably going to be a place where a lot of cults are formed, and you're going to see a future development of a lot of weird type of cults like the Rationalist. So it's not going to stop, and the Zizians are only the beginning. Although it is I'd like
to recommend a new naming scheme for these folks. Zizians, Rationalists. I mean, they're not very creative.
No, they're not. Now,
Bob Dobbs takes his orders directly from Ion the Alien. True story. Look it up. Church of the Subgenius. Very odd bunch.
Now, let me go further and say that one of the instrumental influence on Ziz, and you can read it in their blog, Sincerely. It's my bad. You can read it, and one of their main their influences is a MMORPG called StarCraft. I kid you not, StarCraft was very instrumental. Yes, StarCraft, along with they were into Star Wars and they were into StarCraft, which is this MMORPG, which I've never played, which I think is the celestial version of World of Warcraft. I mean, I know this all sounds silly, but obviously these people take this very seriously.
Yeah, well, the Zizians sound silly to me, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that in itself is comes from this sort of serial called Submerge. That's the name. There was like this popular like fanfic called Submerge, and it's like actually a name of a worm. And they do things like Ziz bombing, which is like psychically controlling the players.
Oh, you sent me that earlier. What is that? Ziz bombing?
Yeah, Ziz bombing comes from this serial internet kind of fanfic where they actually psychically bomb. They have precognition to where they can control all the actions of the people that are in the fan fiction, and that's what Ziz bombing is known as.
Wow.
And this is World of Warcraft.
I know. It's not World of Warcraft. It's not connected to, but yes, part of their influence is StarCraft and also a fanfic called Submerge.
Interesting.
That's right. And let's not also forget the fact Eliezer Yudkowsky, along with one of the Zizians that are in prison right now, he wrote.
Go ahead.
He wrote a letter to the guy Eliezer Yudkowsky, and he said they were talking about how they were D&D partners. You know, they used to play D&D together. I kid you not. So I mean,
Lazarus, the head leader, Ziz.
Why we have the kid in this team?
Go ahead. I know this all sounds absurd.
No, I believe it all makes sense though, because like you would just assume these people have kind of been absurd for a while.
Okay, and someone said something.
Who do they play Dungeons and Dragons with? Who are we talking?
Eliezer Yudkowsky was
play Dungeons and Dragons with Ziz.
With one of the Zizians, yes.
That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense because they get groomed from a young age, I'm sure, right? They're in Ziz, California.
Zizix.
And Ziz, California.
Zizix.
So is that what you think happened there? You think these people got groomed that early? Because I know Nick was bringing that to his presentation regarding some of these programs in Silicon Valley and whatnot.
According to like Ziz herself, she claims that they were grooming the Zizians. So it's very possible. I wouldn't put it past a lot of the Zizians involved. My personal theory is that I think the Silicon Valley types like to target autistic kids, which a lot of these Zizians, let's just be quite honest, and this is not to offend anybody, they are very autistic. And I think the autistic people are kind of inclined towards these autistic kids are kind of inclined towards these types of, programming and, the simulation and all these conceptions.
What do you think that is the focus? What are we talking here? Why are they predicated
I think it's because
they're
predilection? I think because they're like kind of neurally wired differently than other people, and they're more wired to, micromanage things, and they're wired to conceptualize a lot of these higher concepts. They can hyper focus on these individual concepts. Because if you read Sin seriously, clearly it's jargon heavy. It's like someone who's been, on Tumblr too much. And I did actually start on Tumblr initially.
Is that still a thing?
So like, it's not a thing, but it was a thing early on when, and in the aughts when Ziz first started.
And they grew out of Tumblr?
Were communicating. A lot of these groups did grow out of Tumblr.
I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of them were communicating and writing this stuff down. Eventually from Tumblr, it went to blogging. And at the same time, they were going in Silicon Valley, and they were like, trying to find these jobs and, NASA and all the rest of these other groups.
Yeah, NASA, right? NASA's a weird connection to all this too, right? So, the Silicon Valley stuff kind of makes sense because the philosophies you're describing permeate all throughout Silicon Valley, right?
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. The rationalists are kind of just a micro philosophy of like Silicon Valley. They don't really play that a prominent part in Silicon Valley, other than
I'm not so much the rationalists, but this transhumanism stuff. You know what I mean? That's
the transhumanist stuff. Yeah, that's the overarching kind of ideals that link them all together.
Absolutely.
Now,
NASA, where does
what's
NASA
interest-
fall into all this stuff? How do they get in that?
Yeah, right.
Well, NASA was like, I think, was one of the employers of some of the Zizians, including, I believe,
Right.
the German National, I believe, also had a connection there as well.
NASA.
Yes.
So you think that this is what you're saying? It's incidental circumstance that these folks were somehow associated with NASA, or is this theology somehow permeated, or philosophy somehow permeated NASA?
I think they wanted people that were lackeys and probably on the ground floor that they could sort of exploit for labor. But yes, I do think they court a lot of autistic kids. Now, one thing that's interesting too is that often autists online, they are very much, it seems to be non-binary most of the time. That's the odd thing about a lot of these
What?
programming jobs. A lot of people in Silicon Valley is they're all non-binary. Just about all of them seem to be
What are we
all
talking?
of the younger generation.
Percentage-wise?
I would say a good 40%. I mean, and
Get out of
that
town.
includes
Really well.
NSA, that includes NSA, that includes intelligence, that includes a lot of the computer programming jobs, a lot of the artificial intelligence alignment. All of
Sure.
it seems to be kind of populated by
Sure.
non-binary kids.
What do you think causes that? Is it the chicken or the egg? Are they into these ideas, or do they get in there and the ideas change them into that?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't think that we've pinpointed the exact sort of cause.
Let's get Doge on it, dude. Let's get Doge on that. Call my cousin. See what we happen.
So one of the things I want to point out also about the Zizians is they seem to have formed. You guys were talking about unihemispheric sleep. Now, where exactly did unihemispheric sleep originate from? Where did it originate amongst the Zizians? Well,
can I get a multiple choice question on this chance?
Yeah. Well, why don't you go for it?
MK Ultra, right?
I mean, it's a kind of a bootleg version, MK Ultra.
Right. It's folk MK
it's
Ultra.
Bootleg MK Ultra. Yeah. So what I think happened was, I think Michael Vassar and one of his disciples, Jessica, I think, and also Ziz's mentor named Alice Monday. I haven't heard Alice Monday mentioned anywhere, but she was actually the mentor of Ziz. If you could, pull up that Google Doc.
Alice Monday, M-O-N-D-Y? M-O-N-D-A-Y?
Yes, Alice Monday was. Yes, Alice Monday was actually the mentor for Ziz.
Does she live in Vermont?
No, I think that was Zico. That was a Vermont resident.
Jacko? Z-A-J-K-O?
Zico. I can't spell it.
Michelle, yeah, she was the one that was in NASA, right? Michelle Zatko.
Yeah. She's also the one that her parents.
Court records show Monday owns a Vermont property as part of a probe in Pennsylvania double homicide. It's not just another Monday for Miss Monday, I bet.
It's just the 6 names. Alice Monday, spelled like the day.
Yeah, she's got a case of the Mondays every day, apparently.
How did you find it? You just
I linked the Google document
that
was done by Ken the Cowboy. Let me link you to that.
Yeah.
Let me link you to that document. It actually has a pretty good chronology of the whole entire events as they correspond. And this guy did really, really good research on the whole Zizian affair. And I think he's going to make a documentary with Rolling Stone. Make what you will of that. But let me link you guys this one.
What do you mean? They're known to be objectively honest and not a propaganda outlet. What are you talking about, Doctor?
Probably not, but I mean, this is pretty good research this guy did. This guy did pretty good research. I mean, he was right there on the ground floor, because he says that a lot of this thing that happened with the Zizians were happened to a lot of his mutuals.
So where does Miss Monday play into all this stuff? She sounds like an interesting character the way you describe her.
That was Ziz's mentor.
What does she do in life? She was also in the same industry?
Well, yeah, she was linked to the rationalists. And, Ziz, of course, thought that she was potentially a spy that was spying for the CFAR, which is why, initially Ziz wanted to, kill her and wanted to get Zico to kill her.
Kill Monday.
Yes, kill Alice Monday.
So they had an internal confliction within this cult, and that Monday had to go.
Yeah, Monday had to go.
When did that go down? Before or after the onslaught of terror across the United States?
It went around the same. It happened slightly before Ziz, and also Zico, I think, murdered the parents in Pennsylvania. And I don't want to implicate anybody because, like I said, there's really no evidence to link any of the people just yet in the court. But there's high suspicion because, and one of the people actually that bought the gun was not was Zico, but there's another mysterious character by the name of Daniel Blank, which was not a trans, not a non-binary person, but a heterosexual male that was hanging around them.
I'm gonna call foul. You can't be part of this cult. You gotta be trans.
Well, I mean, I guess he was an ally.
So it sounds like they're not only they have internal confliction within the cult. It sounds like, I mean, I'm looking at just this article here talking about property transactions. You know, I got on the screen right here. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of outlying characters. Like I said, we haven't heard the last of the Zizians because there's a lot of outlying characters here. That one of which was a very wealthy financier in the bunch.
Yeah, which was, I think, was the German national, one of the German national people that.
Yeah, and they went to school down there in North Carolina, didn't they not? So that's not just NASA and Silicon Valley. You got the biomedical centers down there. That individual, I don't know if it was trans or not, but they were involved in a PhD studies, I believe, right?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, that's an interesting connection. Not only the fact that they somehow acquired a bunch of medical equipment and also stretchers, which most likely you can make what you will of that. It was probably meant for a lot of them to fake their deaths.
That is wild.
That's what I was going to say, dude. You can do a lot of things with that, right?
Yep. They were really into, and I could see how someone that is, transgender that would be into that type of thing. You know, they're probably into body modification. And I think your previous guest, I don't know the guy's name, the guy with the Orthodox iconography in the background, he mentioned something about them wanting to augment themselves and with drugs. One of the most popular drugs, it's actually called nootropics, and nootropics is very popular. It was popular with Luigi Mangione, and also probably even with the Zizians. Is modafinil is one of the limitless drug. Modafinil, yes.
It's very popular in Air Force pilots, Silicon Valley, stuff like that. Sure.
Yeah, they practice something called nootropics, and what's interesting after this whole Ziz thing conspired, there's a bunch of like Zizians that were people that were close to the Zizians that did this interview with this guy called Ken the Cowboy. He did like 4-hour long interviews with these people. Ken the Cowboy, and he's the one that compiled that document, that Google document that I linked you to.
So, Nick, you had some interesting thoughts on all this medical equipment. That's one thing I don't think has really been discussed in all the media coverage reports. That I learned I didn't know a lot about the Zizian cult before joining Nick and Lisa for that show on the Occult Rejects. So a lot of that stuff was new. So I looked into some more of that stuff afterwards, and I was thinking, they're really glossing over this medical stuff. You know what I mean? What is going on with this medical equipment they got?
Well, I mean, he even said, wondering about like faking their own death.
Sure.
I don't know. I had wondered if, I don't know, maybe they're removing things from people. I have no idea.
Well, what are they doing with these MK Ultra, like bootleg MK Ultra experiments when they're doing the hemispheric brain stuff? Is that how somehow all this medical equipment related to some of those activities?
I mean, I can see listen, I mean, I can see maybe wanting to use certain drugs, maybe to like if you had anesthesia or like certain things and you wanted to test somebody and see what their brain, how it was reacting.
Yeah, that's probably what they're really into, like neurology. So that's probably like one of the links to what they were trying to do, because they were really into the brain.
Yeah.
One of the concepts, as you know, that the Zizians sort of believe in is that there's sort of two people inside of a person. It's good, neutral, and also evil. Yes, that is like one of their concepts, which almost sounds Gnostic, if you ask me.
Or is what I mean, it's almost, it probably is, but it's like the way they do it. It's like, oh, you're good, or you could be bad, or you could be bad. It's like, yo, this sounds like childish fucking shit. That can.
I was gonna say it sounds like the process to me, the reconciliation of opposites.
Well, one of the things that they talk about is debucketing, which also sounds like really strange. Debucketing, yes.
Debucketing. Was that Aquarius?
Yes.
That sounds scary.
Debucketing is freeing yourself from, as a person, to unite with like the good person that's within you. And part of the ways they do this is called jailbreaking. So if you notice, a lot of this stuff is tied to the internet. It's tied to also to conceptions. It's like jailbreaking your phone, and they want to jailbreak, of course, their brain to bring about this the good spirit in people, or the good notions in people.
Which, so I can see where, you're pointing out, it's all the terminology is all rooted in tech for sure.
Yeah, and it's also, it comes from Michael Vassar. Michael Vassar had a concept called debugging. So they sort of conceptualize human beings as being an extension of computers. And they also mix in a bunch of woo-woo spirituality in there as well. A lot of Eastern spirituality, which is very much aligned with the concepts of the Bay Area. So a lot of it is like New Age.
In line with those same concepts, it says Michael Vassar thinks people need to jailbreak themselves using psychedelics in tough conversations. That's a very Bay Area concept, is it not?
That's right. And one of the people that he experimented with was Jessica, and Jessica talks about having a kind of a psychological breakdown from 2017 to 2019, and this is around the same time when Jessica became acquainted with Ziz, and Ziz wanted to cure her of like her psychic kind of breakdown, her psychotic breakdown, and she said they wanted to actually exchange tech. They wanted to exchange tech with each other. So
yeah, it sounds like Scientology.
They look at this as like an extension of someone, and having these sort of abilities that they've harnessed or developed to where these skills they can, they can exchange from each other. This also ties into this guy named Jacques Ellul, who came up with this thing called the technique, where the technology itself becomes fused with the person, and where the person becomes interchangeable with the technology. This is the guy that was instrumental to Uncle Ted, of course. So it's
Ted?
like there's a lot of ties in. Yeah, like Ted Kaczynski.
Oh, I thought you meant Ted Williams. I was about to say they got his frozen head still doing on ice.
Yeah,
I seen it right there. So Ted Kaczynski, does he kind of fall? He kind of falls in these same philosophies, does he not? He's like a proto-Zizian.
The difference between the two is as Ted Kaczynski kind of sees technology as an evil and something that should be not extended. The Zizians look at technology as something that should be extended for the greater humanity, but it has to fall within their ethical frameworks. So well, there is like some
that's a stretch, is it not? Ethical frameworks with these people?
Well, I mean, you have to understand their ethical frameworks comes from a guy named Peter Singer, and Peter Singer has been on the record qualifying rape and murder if it means saving humanity. He's kind of part of the whole breakdown of something called utilitarianism. Utilitarianism plays a part into the animal liberation front and some of the ethical treatment of animals, some of the experimentation that was also done on animals. He's a big advocate of that.
So what you're saying, it's a lot like the Process Church calling themselves the Best Friends Animal Society today.
I suppose.
A no-kill animal shelter.
Well, a lot of cults and a lot of these other higher up people, they like to frame themselves as being the guardians of humanity and being the keepers of humanity and bringing about some type of utopia. And the Zizians also believe that as well. They believe that they called meat eaters flesh-eating monsters, and I think this is some of the static that was between them and the CFAR and the less wrong crowd, which is why they got kicked out of that crowd. Anyway,
it sounds like we're not too far off with connecting this to the process Scientology principles. Using things like tech and these philosophies you're describing, because as Harriet there in the comments just pointed out, Dana over at Rotting Jewels apparently was just talking about this organization and this fellow right here. So in her process research. So I mean, what you're describing to me makes a lot of sense, especially when this. Have you ever heard of this transhumanism guy?
I have.
William Sims Bainbridge. He's like the process church philosopher of philosophers.
Yeah, he's allegedly the guy who studied the process church.
Right.
I have heard of
He's
it.
like, I went inside. I got to tell you guys the truth.
Yeah.
And then he's pictured with a process chapter after that truth telling, truth and experiment he did. And then the chapter he's photographed with allegedly disbanded in 1974, but they're pictured, I believe, in 1978 with the Albany chapter. I'm like, wait a second, you guys play a lot of games. I think that are playing around the Zizian cult. So how do you think these folks, how do you think they get around town, right? Like, how do you think these folks traversed America so easily? Killing themselves off in some occasions, right?
So one of the other things that's interesting is Michael Vassar also had a conception that was kind of like Ziz, in that Michael Vassar believed that, human beings and humanity was just naturally evil, sort of a Gnostic concept. They just believed that humanity was naturally evil, and they had to use AI and the jailbreaking system to overcome this evilness to bring about kind of a new being and a theoretical utopia.
Yeah, I mean, is the utopia like a utopia, or is the utopia like a rationalist? You know what I mean? Like, this all sounds like dark shit to me, especially when we're talking AI.
It is, considering the fact that a lot of the jailbreaking led to suicides. It led to the suicides of Maria Pasic, and it also led to the suicide of someone named Jay. I forget the last name, but there was someone that was associated with Ziz and the Zizians.
They maybe even got old Ted there.
Yeah, it could have.
How do you spell Maria Pasic?
I believe it's Pasek.
Where do these people come from, man? They need new names.
It's in the document.
They need new names, though, man. These are wild names, dude. And this is America, man. Get yourself a new name. Call it Ziz if you have to.
Ziz. Go with Ziz.
Yeah, that's easy. I can remember Ziz, dude. I can't. Look at this name. Can't remember this name. So what?
When it was Jay Winterford.
What role did this lady play in all this? Because she seems like she's old.
Nothing.
Oh.
It was Maria Pasic. It was just someone that was associated with Ziz and was a.
Isn't that this is Maria Pasic?
That's Maria.
What's this lady's name? That was her. It came up as Pasic because that's her born Maria Pasic.
It's in the document.
Did you send me a document?
I did. Yeah, I sent you. Sent you the document on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Well, that'll make it a lot easier.
It says right here,
in the meantime,
Maria Pasic, Squirrel in Hell, Polish transgender who corresponded with Ziz about philosophy. After being introduced to Gwen's sleep tech, it is assumed by many to have killed herself based on a post that was interpreted as a suicide note.
I see it. I'm catching now. I'm tracking.
I got you.
I didn't see this document you sent.
Yeah. That document has everything in it. Yeah, Pasic.
It's the secret.
It's a secret.
Yeah. So she's the squirrel in hell. What's that about?
It's just a screen name.
Is it? Are these people furries?
Gwen Danielson was an otherkin.
Oh god.
They were furries, right?
I suppose that all
I knew it.
Kind of...
Come away from the fucking otherkins of the furries to show up.
Oh, you're familiar with them?
Hey, I've heard of the otherkins before, and I know what furries are.
Yeah. Otherkins are kind of like they're people that believe they were born animals. So you can see how it kind of goes along with their whole conception of veganism. Yeah, they went full animal.
Yeah, the thing that they use is like the septagram too, which I find very interesting. The symbol.
Oh, I see. You're saying Maya. I was thinking you were saying Maria.
Maya.
Pasic.
Sorry, not Maria. Maya. Yeah. Sorry about that. It's Maya Pasic.
I was about to say Maria Pasic's a dead Ukrainian woman, man. I don't think she's involved in this cult.
I don't think so either.
So Maya Pasic is dead or fake dead.
Yes.
I have a hard time tracking this Transtifa situation.
And allegedly, Gwen Danielson also is dead, but Gwen is actually one of the people that faked her suicide along with Ziz, and they were very close with one another. They actually lived on the whole Starfleet, the rationalist Starfleet.
Nice. So are these people? Thank you. That's it. Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like some deep MK Ultra stuff, playing with which side your hemisphere is operating and not, and trying to embed shit inside of one side, and not that the other side doesn't know. I'm sure that sounds like a lot of that's what those experiments probably were doing, right?
Oh yeah, and the Maximilian Snyder guy that I mentioned that corresponded with Eliezer Zizian as of I believe in February when he got locked up. He actually, Eliezer Zizian refused to read the letter, just like he said he wouldn't read the Unabomber's manifesto, and that's where they said that they played D&D together.
Oh.
And one of the other connections is Michelle Zedko and also Ophelia were roommates along with Alice Munday. They lived in the Bay Area together, just about 20 miles away from, I believe, where Ziz and Gwen lived in Vallejo.
So what year are we talking this?
We're talking 2022.
They're living in Vallejo?
Ziz
so they went from Vallejo
yes.
to Vermont, back to Vallejo, it sounds like then.
Yes.
In that previous article, that Monday and the other Zajac fella or thing.
Well, they were kind of going around from Vermont to Pennsylvania to the Bay Area.
Well, they registered to vote in Vermont at that address there in Coventry in 2020.
Michelle Zedko did, yes. Yeah, and that's also where she bought a gun.
Monday.
Yeah, that's also allegedly where they bought a gun as well to kill Alice Munday and also to kill her parents.
Do you see what I'm saying about their free flow of travel and stuff, though? They're going, not only they're going across the country once, they're going back and forth, man. It just, these things don't really pan out to me that someone's not tracking all of this travel.
Yeah, it is kind of suspicious.
Extremely suspicious. Slightly less suspicious than Ted Williams freezing his head.
Well, if you even read some of the news about this, you realize how many times they might go back to the feds saying, well, this, and this. So it's
right.
It's telling you that the feds have actually been watching them as well.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It almost seems like someone might be handling them as well.
I don't know. It's just the feds knew all this already.
It's pretty wild.
And that's correct. At least one of them, the German national visa workers did have tons of cash. They were flush with cash, so they could just buy property after property. That's correct.
But who's the one that disappeared to Canada?
I don't
know. It wasn't a German, I don't think.
No. One of the
guys who did come over. I don't know if it's the same one, but there was one that I think that came from Germany that stayed in Canada and then came here. So we were confused of how did you get here? Did you use Canada? Did you use Germany? Which one was it?
Okay, that's the one I'm talking about. There you go, Nick. Yeah, that was the one I'm talking about. Yeah, they seem to be going across borders seamlessly as well, right?
I would guess a lot of them probably had passports and they didn't have felonies, so they could probably travel pretty easily.
Well, the one that Nick was talking about faked their death, right?
I don't know if that's the same one. Ziz did.
I get too many of these things mixed up. They all need to be named Ziz 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. I think there's 2 or 3 that did. I know there's at least one of them. One of the other ones that Daniel something near the end that before we recorded the show, this kid just happened to come out as another name, completely obviously autistic or something's wrong with him.
So, Doc, you were saying somebody committed suicide or faked their death, and then now they committed suicide. How are we sure they?
Gwen Danielson is the one that was assumed that she faked her death, but the lawyer said, however, she also suicided.
You mind if I show this,
along
Doc?
with this. Yeah, go ahead. Go show the document.
Yeah, it's there. You can see. Can you see it?
Yep.
So Gwen faked her death in April 22.
Yes.
After just moving to San Francisco.
That's around the same time when they jumped bail.
Right.
Which is funny because They also jumped bail in Pennsylvania as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. The one Felix Ophelia was the one that went to Waterloo in Canada and was a German national as well.
There you go.
And then I think came to work here. That's why I was like, that's why, because there was so much time spent in both. It was like, how did you work that?
But it says they're ethnically Chinese. Is that right?
Yes, adopted. They were adopted.
They're adopted ethnically Chinese?
No, they were ethnically Chinese kids that were adopted
to
by
Germany.
American parents. Yes.
Oh, this is getting more confusing.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So
you see, this is like it's a big spaghetti mess.
Then Ziz fakes his death. So what was the impetus of this first fake death then from Ophelia?
Probably to create like kind of the mystique and also like to jump bail as well.
Yeah. So what were they jumping bail from? The murders of the one's parents in Pennsylvania?
No, it was from the initial charges to where they disrupted that whole conference.
Yeah,
the CFAR conference.
Yeah, these folks do hood rat shit, man.
They do.
I could be wrong, but was it the case? Was it after that they attacked Lind is when they kind of found out that Jack was still alive or Ziz was still alive?
Oh, spoiler alert! They're like, hey,
no, it was the Pennsylvania affair. It was the Pennsylvania affair. And what's funny about that is that during the Pennsylvania affair, they took Ziz in, and then she kind of faked an escape. She escaped from a hospital while she was being detained. She went to a hospital and then escaped there, and then was on the run. And was only
I didn't realize that aspect. I missed that part.
Was only being questioned for the deaths, and they actually handed over the gun to the cops. So
yeah, I knew it was like one of the crimes is what brought attention to him being alive. Him being alive against this. I don't know what the fuck it is.
So what went down here in November 22 after two fake deaths already? We got Ziz and Gwen deaths confirmed and then denied.
Yeah, that's correct by the lawyer, and the whole elaborate sort of obituary. Yeah, the whole obituary is printed up in Alaska, and Jack Lasota is dead, and don't look for Jack Lasota.
Now, how does this Alaskan lawyer tie into all this stuff?
It's not. I don't know if it's like an Alaskan lawyer. I think the lawyer was from the Bay Area, but I'm not really certain about that.
I find that to be a very intriguing aspect of someone being able to fake their death in this entire saga by the use of an attorney.
It is.
JJ, someone in your chat is saying that they escaped from a hospital too.
Yeah, that was Ziz.
Ziz, yep.
That was Ziz that escaped. I escaped from a hospital.
Nice.
I did.
Yeah, so Ziz seems pretty skilled, right? He's got he or she's got a very unique set of skill sets. Right?
I mean, even when the mug shot was taken, Ziz had enough acting ability to also appear dead in the mug shot. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. What do you think? Do you think someone can achieve this on their own? I mean, they seem to be an intelligent individual. NASA, Silicon Valley AI stuff, and all this other shenanigans they're involved in. Clearly creative.
Never underestimate Silicon Valley kids.
Sometimes
they never underestimate the power of Transtifa.
Don't underestimate them.
Sometimes I think it's just like you have to have the balls to try something. Right. Like I do even think with the whole faking the death thing.
I get the pun. I get the pun there. That's a good one.
Oh God. The guts. Or even just like the fear of trying. It's like, listen, maybe all I have to do is just put in a fake obituary into some news outlet, and it's good enough for people to believe. And I'll have someone call and say they thought they fell in the water. Maybe that will actually work, and it did. And I'm not saying there could be even deeper shit to it. I'm just wondering sometimes when shit like that happens, could it really just be a motherfucker pushing their luck and it works?
Pretty much, yeah. Sure. I think you're correct.
That can happen.
Yeah, I think they were bold from the start. Yeah, I think you're right.
There's something with. I think something up with those too many of them. I think we're doing that. Seems weird.
So this event with killing the landlord seemed to be a tipping point for the Transtifa here, right?
That is, yeah. Now, what's weird? Let me just add this. What's weird about that? If you look at their interviews, and I do recommend people look at the interviews with Ken the Cowboy. There's multiple of them. There's people. Yeah, Ken the Cowboy is on Twitter, and he's the one.
I thought you were making that up for a second, man. I didn't know it was a real thing.
I'm not. No, that's a real thing. That's that dude's name. But yeah, if you look at like all the interviews, he interviewed all of these people that were adjacent to Ziz. Some of them were former members. So apparently there was more than the 9 that has been attributed like in the media.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying, dude. It seems like there's a lot of them, right?
people.
Someone fed them after midnight or something. So this guy's talked to other people that like, so right now it seems like there's a couple of them still hiding out that maybe have faked their deaths again, right?
There's people there speaking to Kenny, the cowboy, and they're pretty open about these things.
And it's members of the cult that are just chilling outside of. They weren't involved in these activities. They're just hanging out. What's going on with that dynamic?
Well, I mean, one of the people that he interviewed was named Slime Princess. And according to Slime Princess, they, Gwen or some of the others might still be alive. And if you wanted to contact them, you have to look in the right circles. They hinted that during the 4-hour interview. And believe me, I didn't like watching these like 4-hour interviews, but there's a lot of detail in there. There's a lot of detail in there.
One thing here, I just want to say this because I was like going through the notes. And if this would have been me, I would have corrected myself. It's just that if people are trying to be specific with this, it was after Lynn that he got.
Okay. All right.
That's
gotcha.
I'm not trying to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
After Lynn, the
deputy district attorney even contacted the lawyer and was like, "We found him. He's alive."
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the incident in Pennsylvania, right?
No, I don't think that one was in Pennsylvania. I think it was Zatko's parents. I think.
Yeah, it was Zatko's parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
But wasn't Ziz in the hotel room when they went to question her?
Yes.
Might be in California.
No. Ziz was in the hotel room. She just faked her death. She faked like she was dead, but they still arrested her, and she was still faking her death while she was in the squad car and getting a mugshot taken. And then like they faked some medical emergency or whatever, and then escaped from the hospital. And then they were on the run from there.
Yeah, I think
then this whole thing
found Ziz like in the tub or some shit.
Yeah, no, they found it in the bathroom. Yeah, in the tub.
Bathroom,
yes.
Yeah, the bathroom.
Yeah. Just laying there.
January 2023, right?
Yes.
Bathroom. If I play, close my eyes and play dead, they won't see me.
This is like a game of that movie.
I don't have my eyes. I'm not dead.
Like a dog. Yeah, if I don't open my eyes, they don't see me.
This is like that Japanese movie Rashomon, where like people have so many like takes to where it becomes distorted by the end of it. If you ever seen that movie by Akira Kurosawa, it's just there's just so many like different events that transpired. It's hard to keep track of it, and I think this guy has done a good job of it though. And there's also like bad reporting by the media as well on this whole entire incident. I mean, really bad reporting.
It is actually.
So I guess, looking at this timeline you got here, it seems odd to me that these things do cover such a large, it's not just a few weeks at a time, it's months. So it's like, why weren't investigators doing into some of these activities when these things were popping off?
Yeah. It's like it goes all the way from 2019 to 2025 to now, to where now it's like there's some mysterious woman that popped up in the court where they're like in the trial on Curtis Lind.
Right, but look at this one right here. You got November 13th and 14th, 2022. Ziz and Gwen found a crime scene. Gwen on the run from Zizians. And this is in Sonoma County out there in Northern California in Solano County. So, I mean, they're obviously on someone's radar already, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And like I said, a lot of this is like secondhand information.
Were the feds involved? The feds weren't involved with this early, were they?
No, I think the feds were asleep at the wheel as usual.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I would agree.
Oh, you got that article right there about Monday from the Vermont Digger.
There's Daniel Blank. Who I mentioned.
Yeah, so what's his deal? He's a cisgendered man whose blog showed him captivated by Soda's ideas.
Yep.
Whoa.
And he lived with them also in North Carolina as well. And
so
he's one of the people that was no, he's not really responsible for any of the crimes. He's just probably an accessory. But he is like potentially implicated with Zico's parents' death. So he's just kind of like
really?
He's sort of the Tex Watson of the Manson family, you could say.
Tex Watson.
Yeah.
Tex Watson. So he's wanted but not presumed dead?
Yeah, he's just wanted.
Interesting. What's his background?
I don't know. They really don't know
Blank history,
much
huh?
about him. Yeah, blank history.
He had the least I could find anything on, I think.
You can't find
Really?
anything on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, there's something I was going to say. I totally forgot now.
I was say I don't. The only thing I see here is he's from Berkeley. It sounds like.
Oh,
Yeah.
who was the one that Youngblood ended up getting like a marriage license to get married to?
I think that was Maximilian Snyder.
Yeah. What do you think his deal is? I feel like I think that I read in one thing where they said they weren't sure if he was so much part of the cult, but more of just like kind of going along with like chaos. Like
I get that impression with him. I get that impression. It also seems like he's one of the ones that didn't fully transition either. So he probably wasn't all in. Yeah.
I just do wonder like what the hell his part was too.
That's these two, Teresa Youngblood and Dear Maximilian Snyder.
Yeah. Yes.
AKA Audrey, Blue September.
Yeah. Yep. They named themselves Alice Monday and Blue September.
Oh, that's Alice Monday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jamie alleges names, that Ziz told her to kill Alice. That Jamie is Michelle Zico.
Oh, I thought you were saying Audrey was Alice Monday. Okay, I see.
No.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Audrey is Maximilian Snyder. Yeah.
There's the German national. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a very fascinating group because, again, I haven't listened to a lot of coverage on. Obviously, most of my knowledge all comes from the, the extensive PowerPoint presentation and background that Nick and Lisa did. So I don't know what else anyone else is doing with this, but it doesn't seem like anyone's really digging into a lot of these backgrounds.
They're not digging into the LinkedIn or any of their some of their connections to different companies.
That's what's crazy. You're right, Doc. If you were to go, and I'm not like, I guess like, boasting for both of us here or whatever, all of us here. But if you were to go on YouTube and watch people's presentations on the few things that is, it's like they just glance over their LinkedIn and then that's it. It's like,
yeah, that's it. And
like
they also
none of this sounds interesting to you.
That's true. What? Yeah. They also don't pay attention to the backgrounds of Zizian's parents either, who were heavily vested into AI. Which we know that AI people and probably even military people like to groom and test out stuff on their kids.
Sure.
That is a common reoccurrence with a lot of these types of people that are vested into these industries. That's one thing I wondered. Matter of fact, TrueAnon, who did like 2 episodes on them, TrueAnon's pretty big. They didn't even go into the background of Ziz's parents or his father, who was pretty prominent high up there. And what was it, University of Fairbanks or one of the Alaskan universities? He was prominent AI researcher. I mean, that kind of dumbfounds me that they don't look more into the companies they're affiliated with, because they don't just recruit a lot of these kids out of the blue. They have science camps where they recruit a lot of these kids, and now they're recruiting a lot of these kids online. Yeah, the GATE program, and then they feed into these science camps. NASA has camps for potential researchers and people who are into AI and also into computer programmers, etc. So I don't understand why they're not covering this. Yeah, mostly stuff you read, the rundowns you read about the Zizians, they don't really go further into their ideology. They don't go into their backstory much. So yeah, it is kind of boring. It's like a true crime type of boring podcast that you hear, just a rundown.
A lot, maybe not the same for TrueAnon, but other people, it's I don't think they really look at it even with a conspiratorial mindset. So I think a lot of things they just blow off. I mean, yeah, it is weird shit, but I just they're just silly weird kids. You know what I'm saying?
Is it because of the PC politics? What do you think that's about?
Or it's just people who aren't
it's partially
about anything too.
It's partially, but I mean, even Andy Nago didn't do a very good job, and usually he's the one that's calling out Antifa and a lot of the transgender politics. He didn't do a very good job either. None of these outlets are doing really good jobs. That Guardian article is the closest I've seen.
He didn't go too deep. It was 1 or 2 people, and I know what you mean. He tried. He did some decent posts, but it wasn't much actually out of the whole. No. And he seemed to get a lot. He did seem to get a lot of recognition for that.
He did, yeah. I think a lot of people don't take this very seriously because it's kind of niche. And they don't think this.
Very
I think
niche.
it had it been like a far right group, it would probably get more coverage. But because it's
That's what I'm
kind of
saying,
left
dude.
coded, it's not getting a lot of coverage.
That's
That's what I'm
another thing
saying, dude.
that I brought up that I was like wondering to see if there was any kind of crossovers. I mean, I doubt it, but it was just a thought. But I was like, there has been kind of like the last few shootings or like weird shit sometimes is recently, in my opinion, for the last year, maybe even longer, 2 years, has kind of come from like leftist type people or even
Yeah.
people with weird sexual identity. Let's put it that way. Or different tranny, whatever the fuck they call it, transgender.
Buffalo
I
Jared Visas of
wonder
the
if there's
world.
something. Yeah, I'm like, is there something up with that, or is it like I just hate to say it? I wonder if is it just an easy, susceptible person to manipulate?
I think it's just autistic kids are just easy to manipulate, and a lot of autistic kids are drawn to this type of specific type of research and these specific fields. That's my personal opinion on the matter.
What
And a
is it?
lot of autistic kids also tend to be non-binary as well, and that probably leads to gender dysmorphia. And a lot of they already have like kind
Sure.
of neural atypical kind of functions, and then it sort of leads to non-binary
Neurodivergence.
yeah,
Right?
neurodivergence. Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of this comes from. A lot of the confusion comes from.
Who's Suri Dow?
Suri Dow is, I think, one of the ones that attacked Kurt Lind. One of the
Yes, that's
people
my
may have been the
understanding.
person who attacked him with the katana.
That's
Oh,
right. Yeah,
so
they had
using
like
some weapons from the homeland.
Yep. I think you misidentified that. I don't think
I intentionally
Chinese
did that.
have
I
katanas.
intentionally did that.
Okay.
So we,
She just trying to be as un-PC as possible.
I gotta do my Elon Musk salute when I say that next time, right? So what?
Oh man, don't do that.
Why is there no
You'd be
photo
canceled.
of this person?
That's a good question. And matter of fact, the court records are very sparse. I mean, you can barely find any court records on any of these people.
Yeah,
So
that
why
one was
are they
really
burying the
sparse.
court records?
Yeah, they're scheduled for February 19th, and that one is supposedly, I think they're not even in the prison system, so they're suspecting that they went to a mental health place, state hospital.
Most likely.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but I did find, yeah. It's like,
Most likely.
This is an article from today about the proceedings for Suri Dow being delayed until April.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
makes sense. February 19th.
Why do they call them? And what was that, Nick?
I said I had down February 19th, and I forgot the show's so old. We're past that.
Well, it sounds like they're delaying it some more, so maybe they are in some sort of hospital. You never know. I mean, but why are they calling it an enigmatic anti-AI group?
Oh, that's supposedly
They are
things they thought that we needed regulations on it, but I don't know.
okay. Part of the reason why that is because I think there's a poor understanding of AI amongst journalists. So they don't understand there's different like competing thoughts on AI, and they're not necessarily anti-AI. They're AI alignment. They're trying to encode ethical models into AI as opposed to being anti-AI. And Zizians are not anti-technology. They're not Luddites like people think they are. They actually want to use technology to carve out their neo-vegan kind of utopia. I know I've overused the term utopia, but that's sort of what they want to do. They want to create kind of, neo-vegan utopia where they're theoretical models where it will not harm any kind of sentient life, which obviously doesn't include humans because, Ziz's conception of a human is rather interesting. It kind of dovetails off Nick Bostrom's ideation of what a human being is, something they called a singleton. They look at AI as like a singleton, which is all-encompassing AI, which controls every facet of human being and human life. And Ziz even said they wanted to put people on Nuremberg trials that were flesh-eating monsters. That's sort of like Ziz's conception of like what humans are to what Ziz is, and like it goes back to the whole uni-hemispheric, the good, bad, good, and neutral, and all the rest of that stuff.
I mean, once again, you sound a lot like Scientology there, Doc. You know, they Elron calls it the Nova Humo Novus or Novo Humus. Latin for new, whatever Latin is for new human.
If I may
Homo
also
novus.
give you an info hazard. If I may give you an info hazard.
I saw that. What is an info hazard?
Info hazard is something where it gets stuck in people's minds like a mind virus, to where it just warps their perception and drives them to insanity. And some people can not recover from an info hazard. And usually when they're talking about info hazard, they're talking about Rocco's basilisk. And Rocco's basilisk is this theoretical model that's based on Newcomb's paradox, which is basically a variation of the prisoner's paradox and also Pascal's wager, which says that eventually when an AI becomes sentient, it's going to know that you did not help it and to gain its sentience, to where it's going to destroy you and plunge you into an eternal hell.
Is this thing the devil that lives there? Because what is this thing?
And it can see into people. It can see into humans, and it can see into their thoughts.
Why is it called basilisk?
I think that's off the cathedral basilica, but I'm not sure why it's called basilisk. I think it's Rocco's basilisk.
It's just a weird name, right?
That is and by the way, Rocco's basilisk has been around for a while. It's not just something that was conceived by the rationalists. It's something that very much grew out of like Newcomb's paradox and some of the other thought experiments, which a lot of the rationalists are into. According to the rationalists, and to less wrong, they banned the whole conception because it was leading people down a path of insanity.
Yeah, I was going to say your boy Eliezer Yudkowsky didn't like it, huh?
No, they didn't like it. But you know who's a big fan of it? Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin are big fans of it.
Typical.
Either they're like trolling or they're actually fans of it. I don't know. It's hard to tell with those two.
Typical. So what are these different factions amongst AI really controlling then, right? Like what's the main beef here outside of these funny terms they make up?
I would say the main beef is just the veganism and the transgenderism. It really conflicted with a lot of the people into less wrong, and with the early inception of they thought it wasn't very important, and that they were hyper focusing on it. So it caused a kind of schism amongst the different sort of groups of artificial intelligence alignments.
Interesting.
So that's the main scale, and also the veganism is a big point of contention.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, that's a big part of their whole being.
Yeah, the Serpent King. I thought that's what I'm saying. That's kind of a weird name for that. I feel like calling it the Serpent King.
Yeah, it is. It is modeled after an ancient serpent.
Yeah. Some weird shit, because every time I look at all this Silicon Valley stuff, I always go back to old boy that started the computer, was like channeling demons in which to do it.
Oh yeah.
This guy knows what I'm talking about.
There's also something called time decision theory. This like kind of dovetails with the whole Rocco's basilisk. This says that this also is like, it's not time travel per se, but it's like you can decide every kind of ethical move you're going to make and every kind of ethical violation. Like I said,
these guys.
These
guys and their terminology, Doc. I don't like it. I know
it's like they've encoded this into their head to gaslight them.
Yeah, right.
And matter of fact, TDT and also Rocco's basilisk was called a natural method of blackmail. It was considered like future blackmail. So a lot of you could see how impressionable people could probably be blackmailed with a lot of this these preconceived notions. And also this ties into the unihemispheric sleep as well.
Oh, all right. Let's hear that prescription.
Prescription.
It is the good doctor.
That is an answer.
What's the diagnosis there, Doc?
Well, the diagnosis is they're probably crazy. They're probably crazy.
That I have no doubt of.
And unfortunately, they have a lot of prominence, and I don't think it's stopping anytime soon for a lot of these groups. They're going to continue. They're just going to have a continual basis for a lot of these groups of kids, and they're going to keep doing this.
Creepy.
And it won't be just the Zizians; it'll be others as well. Oh yeah, let me also mention. This is kind of just something random, but it ties in. There was this psychologist or psychiatrist named R.D. Laing, which is a favorite of Michael Vassar, and according to him, he believes that schizophrenics can be naturally cured without medication. So a lot of and Michael Vassar also said on record, and he wrote an essay on Less Wrong, that autistic kids have superpowers, and they should not be corrected. You should not therapeutically correct them.
Did he use the term superpowers?
Yes, he did.
That's a very Scientology term. Very Scientology.
Maybe they're from that Midsummer cult.
Especially when you're talking alternatives. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
So maybe they're from that Midsummer type cult.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, the kid Down syndrome or something, and he was reverted as a genius. He wrote it it was their holy text.
I think that is pretty accurate. They do see
the shaman
people with neurotypical type of ailments like autism as being sort of sages, and you're correct on that. That's a good observation.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I have noticed that. Over the years, I've noticed that now.
And like I said, I look at the Zizians and even the Vassarites, I look at them as kind of a neo-Gnostic type of sects that accidentally happen. They're not necessarily following stuff like the Demiurge or the Archons or whatever, but it seems like they conceptualize artificial intelligence as this divine Demiurge that they have to serve and they have to correct. So, I mean, that's something to consider. And some of the, by the way, they're not directly connected, but there is this guy in Silicon Valley that was pardoned by Donald Trump who actually wanted to model his own artificial intelligence cult.
Say what?
Yes, he wanted to make an artificial intelligence cult. He made it back in 2017.
What's this guy's name?
No, I think it's Yudkowsky, Andrew Yudkowsky.
Andrew Yudkowsky.
And he actually made the Google self-driving cars and got locked up for insider trading. And then he was pardoned by Trump when Trump got into office at the request of Peter Thiel, I believe.
Well, of course, Peter Thiel's involved, right?
Yes,
of course. How are you spelling this fellow's name? Because I think it's totally missed this one.
Yudkowsky. I think it's Andrew Yudkowsky.
Zukowski? Like a zoo?
Zikowski.
Oh, I got it. Zizian-kowski.
Yeah. Zizian-kowski.
Oh, I see. He put a D in front of it. Silent D.
Typical.
Yeah. Good shot.
No, I totally missed that. That's an interesting it's an interesting relationship the Don's got with old Peter Thiel. I often wonder what
people have not picked up on that, but these ideas, even though the Zizians don't really play a big part in Silicon Valley, according to the media and according to others, this is pretty concurrent type of ideology all around Silicon Valley. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, this transhumanism concepts, right? The playing God situation. I mean, Thiel, amongst many others, are notorious for, the whole blood transfusion of younger blood, and Lord knows what else. What are your thoughts on this thing here, Doc? You familiar with this AI project?
The Norman Bates one? No, I'm not. I do know about Tay, but I don't know much about the Norman Bates artificial. They have so many of these different artificial intelligence models that are done by, I think we're kind of in an arms race when it comes to developing artificial intelligence. From what I've researched,
this is like 2014. This is like 2014, and to my understanding, when I was tracking it at the time, or 2018 looks like. My understanding when I was tracking at the time, this is funded by Jeffrey Epstein money.
Oh, really? Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, his main competitor in AI funding was Peter Thiel. He was Peter Thiel's #1 competitor.
Let me also talk about there's this failed operation by Michael Vassar. It's called MetaMed. And this was like kind of a startup, a medical startup, where they were catering to the wealthy. They were doing concierge type medicine. And of course, this went belly up. What's interesting about this, and I think you guys pointed out, this guy named John Talon, he was actually connected to MetaMed. So he has a connection to Michael Vassar. And as well as like some of the Zizians actually interned for one of the financial startups that he was a part of, and also this Talon guy was a part of. And that's an interesting connection. Let me find the name. It was for Jane Street Capital. And also Sam Bankman-Fried was a part of that as well. I thought I should mention that as well. Sorry if I'm all over the place with this, but
You're
I
good, Doc.
just want to make sure that these connections are well noted, that these people are all kind of interconnected, and it's not just hearsay. It's a lot of these people like run in the same circles, and from what the media would say.
Talon?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick.
John Talon.
Yeah, Juan Talon. He has DeepMind that even connects to like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel too.
Yeah.
Yep. That PayPal mafia, they're a real mafia, aren't they?
Now, what's also interesting is that MetaMed also had a developer named Zoe Moshowitz, and he had a connection, and he was a professional Magic the Gathering player. Yes.
Come on.
I'm not making it up.
The name sounds made up, and the profession sounds even more made up.
I swear, Magic the Gathering players could make tons of money.
Damn, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like professional cornhole players?
Not quite. They can't get that job.
I think I'd rather watch that.
Now, what's interesting also about him is he has a mother by the name of Deborah Moshowitz. Moshowitz. And she was a prominent biochemist at Columbia University. And she specializes in RNA processing.
At Columbia, huh? That is a prominent school.
And effective altruism are really into vaccines as well.
Oh, effective altruism. Sam Bankman-Fried's silly statements.
Yes. And he practiced something called longerism, which is an extension of rationalism.
Oh. So this is all kind of the Sam Bankman-Fried crowd, huh?
They're kind of like, the thing is interesting because of Twitter and because of the internet, all these people sort of link up together. There's actually a post-rationalist space on Twitter called the Teapot, and that's this space on Twitter. So a lot of the former adjacent Zizians and also Luigi Mangione were part of that group, which basically is just a Twitter space for people that believe in self-improvement.
Was Luigi trans Zizian?
No.
He wasn't zest?
Not so much.
I don't think so. I don't think Luigi Mangione was very zesty. I think he was good with the females. I don't think Luigi was zesty.
That kind of went and disappeared, didn't it? It went the way of Houdini, right? And just went poof. No one really talks about Luigi anymore.
Well, I mean, I think his styles are copied now. He has kind of a cult following. They're talking about his loafers. Yeah. He's kind of a folk hero to a lot of people.
Amongst the Silicon Valley Zizian crowd?
No, not really them, but amongst the people on Twitter. No, not really that. Not really those people.
We have a third party in the mix?
I have heard that. You talk about Luigi, right?
Yeah.
Luigi Mangione.
Yeah. Some people think I've seen, from how I've seen it, seems like more liberal type people.
Yeah, he's kind of a leftist folk hero.
Yeah.
Very popular on TikTok.
Nice. I didn't realize he gained such a cult following, but
I won't say. I can't say any specific type. Like I can't. I just noticed. That.
Yeah.
So, are we going to see Luigi, Zizian copycat, mashed up copycat crimes?
That's a good question. Probably.
Because they're both. I mean, the Zizians are kind of a folk hero, right? Old Ziz.
Kind of. I think they're more kind of reviled than Luigi.
Who's got more street cred, Ziz or Luigi?
I'd say Luigi has more street cred.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and that jacket that Luigi wore is selling out too. Try to find it. That olive Sherpa coat. Try to find it anywhere.
That's the new move in fashion. Get a killer to wear your stuff on camera.
I guess so.
Interesting. It's a sign of the times, I suppose.
Let me also mention
freeze my head like Ted Williams here.
Let me also mention one more Michael Vassar connection that's interesting. He's connected to, of course, MAPS. And that's not what you think it is. It's like the Psychedelic Research Center that
I know
very
that
prominent in pushing,
pushing
psychedelics. Yeah, Michael Vassar has a connection to that that group as well.
That goes back to like Aubrey Marcus
and
all that shit.
Rick Doblin.
Rick Doblin. And also like Rick Doblin, interesting enough, had these various different harm reduction clinics in Burning Man. And one of the offshoots of MAPS is they're now trying to acquire it. One of Elon Musk's associates is trying to acquire one of his spin-off groups. Now, what's interesting about Rick, what's interesting about, I don't know why I keep calling him Rick, but what's interesting about, his name is
Rick. Pal Rick, Doblin. Rick Doblin.
Rick Doblin, yeah. What's interesting about him is that he also was involved in early MDMA research as well. That's what's interesting about him. Well, yeah, he wanted actually to reduce trauma for vets, for people that had been induced trauma in like wartime. He wanted to actually experiment with MDMA to treat their anxiety and a lot of their PTSD. What's also interesting about him is like a lot of his companies have been associated with a lot of sexual misconduct as well. Because what he was doing is he was licensing a lot of these independent healers. They oftentimes didn't even have a medical degree. These also psychologists, and they were administering the MDMA to the patients, and allegedly under the care of one of these quote unquote licensed healers by him, they suffered a sexual assault. Yeah.
Typical. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Rick Doblin and his psychedelic shenanigans is responsible for the death of actor Matthew Perry.
Perhaps.
Is he kind of the godfather of all this home ketamine treatment?
Yes, ketamine treatment, MDMA treatment. I don't know if he's
the home ketamine treatment.
I don't know. Yeah, actually is. Yes.
Yeah, we'll send it to your house. You just eat it there by yourself. No worries.
Yeah, and especially he was targeting the elderly as well. He was trying to target the elderly and trying to he thought it was a cure for Alzheimer's as well.
No. Well, I know he's got the Johns Hopkins and the DOD convinced that they can give mushrooms to vets to cure their PTSD.
Yes, and MDMA.
There you go.
That's MDMA. Less problem. The psilocybin is less problematic, but the MDMA has been a bit controversial.
Yeah, it's very controversial to me. I'm not a fan. Mushrooms, on the other hand, I'll take 2, please.
Yeah, but it's interesting how all these things sort of have a kind of connection. And I'm sorry, guys, if I sound a little schizoid with all this, but believe me, as crazy as this shit is, it actually does exist. Yeah. And yes,
it is schizoid, right?
Yeah, video games and RPG are very influential upon people. And also, a lot of these Silicon Valley types, they want to take this is really weird what they want to do. And they want to actually make virtual communities, and they want to take these virtual communities and they want to transpose them onto actual real estate. They want to buy up real estate, and they want to make themselves czars or governors of these various different like estates. So they're like acquiring this property so they can make their virtual kind of wonderland into reality. So there you go.
I mean, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, Doc, because I mean,
man,
the digital real estate is the only kind of frontier of real estate, right? That's left.
Oh yeah, there is a link with Joe Rogan because the Rick Doblin also went on Joe Rogan plenty of times. He's been on there multiple times. So
yeah, for some people like in the chat, because there is like a lot of new listeners, there's some when we covered Matthew North in Essalon, I think, on the Occult Reasons. This is like almost 2 years ago.
oh really?
Yeah, we actually go into like shit with just for like Joe Rogan maps Essalon and all. We actually go into some of that stuff.
I didn't know Matthew North had a connection.
Well, no, he was showing. We were showing who Matthew North.
Oh, okay.
You know, that was a lot of stuff
Okay.
he was looking at. So we kind of like looked at some of his stuff and took it a little bit farther in certain.
Nice.
R.I.P. Shit that fucking goes to Rogan and is ridiculous.
Yeah. CIA backed, in your opinion?
Who is this?
So I don't trust the guy at all. I think he's funded by somebody. He's a puppet.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's my opinion.
I kind of think most mainstream people are. Just my opinion. And I'm a little bit.
You talking about Rick Doblin being CIA backed? Is that who you said?
No. Well, that's possible too. But I was talking about like Joe Rogan.
Oh well, yeah. Let's be honest about the situation. Well, if you look at where the mushroom stuff came from, that came from the CIA MK Ultra sub project headed by.
Well, what's interesting about Doblin is he actually took the research from this guy from Russia. I don't know his name, but he was a very prominent researcher in psychedelics. I don't have his name with me presently, but that's where a lot of his inspiration came from.
Are you familiar with the name Gordon Wasson?
No, I'm not.
He was the vice president of Chase Bank. I'm sorry, JP Morgan Bank before it was JP Morgan Chase. He was on the cover of Life magazine back in maybe 55, touting the mushroom psychedelic experience, and it was later found out that was an MK Ultra sub project. He was also the head of the CFR.
Acid dreams.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. All these ideas of the psychedelic concepts of any drug of these psychedelics, they all have their root in the same origin story of Spookville. At least here in modern America. So that's an integral part, though, of getting these folks trantified, right? Is the psychedelics?
Some people would say.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't think so.
Wasn't one of them into LSD a bit too? Was that Teresa? She talked about that young boy.
I think that was
I could be
most of them. I think that was Gwen Danielson. That was, but if I'm not mistaken.
I know. Yeah,
but I would guess most. I would think most experimented with LSD. I would guess that was pretty common. It definitely was common with Jessica and the Vassarites, and there's no doubt that Alice Munday was associated with the Vassarites, and so was. That's probably where a lot of the unihemispheric sleep probably came into, because Gwen was one of the main people that was really pushing the unihemispheric sleep. So it's no doubt that they probably used LSD to augment a lot of the bootleg MK Ultra type stuff.
That's what I was thinking, Doc. That's Gordon Wasson on Life magazine there on his magical mushroom trip to Mexico.
I think you should highlight Liz's comment about Alzheimer's.
I missed it.
Because she made a good point. And I just want to clarify, I didn't say cure Alzheimer's per se. What I said is he was trying to use MDMA to, that was Rick Doblin, not, I don't think he was using psilocybin. Yeah, Doblin. He was the one
that name, Rick Doblin.
No, I don't know why.
My buddy Rick.
He was the one that was doing that.
Ricky boy.
Ricky Doblin.
Yo, Doblin.
Psilocybin and shrooms are being given to Alzheimer's patients, not to cure, but to alleviate the mental health aspect of it, because Alzheimer's is prison disease. Prion disease. I can't
That's
read.
Correct.
You can't.
That's correct. You cannot. That's correct. You can't unfold proteins. That's correct. Thanks for that comment.
Is the bushes.
That's like,
You're not a
can't. That's true.
That's true. The interwebs. Dr. Inferno, doctor of a lot of things. Medicine is not one.
Medicine is one. Well, I know about folding proteins, though. I do know about that. I do know about biology. It's like one of the degrees that I hold.
Oh shit, your license? My bad,
not,
dude.
Not a PhD, but I do. I do know about unfolding of proteins, though.
Yeah, it's clearly I have no idea what any of that stuff is, but
It's because I'll explain. It's the tertiary structure of the protein, which once it's damaged, it cannot be like altered again, and that's pretty much what Alzheimer's disease. It's tangles inside the brain, which is why it's very complicated, and why once the synapses are interrupted through these tangles, it causes disruption in the brain, and it's hard for the synapse to and the proteins to unfold onto itself to pass the neurotransmitters.
You know what I thought was weird about Biden? Did you notice that he had mentioned Alzheimer's was going to be a problem a few times during his? I don't know. I just found that weird that he, even in his, I'm almost positive, not his, maybe his speech that I won, but maybe like his first main thing. I'm almost positive he even brings up like something about Alzheimer's and wanting to push studies into that because they think that's going to be like the next issue. And then he does bring that up one or two, at least, I would say at least two more times during his presidency. He mentions Alzheimer's.
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. A lot of these people that are into, I guess it's not unusual, but a lot of the biotech people are really obsessed with Alzheimer's research. They're really obsessed with it. The biotech people are obsessed with it. A lot of the Silicon Valley type people are obsessed with it. So yeah, it's very much a current topic amongst these communities. So
I went a different route with that thought, Doc. I thought, well, maybe that's his Alzheimer's talking.
That was Alzheimer's.
Maybe.
Is that associated with prions disease?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
I wonder if it's more of the study of prions, actually. Or they're interested.
So it can be contagious?
To an extent. Oh, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
What's the diagnosis, Doc?
I don't know, man. I'm not a real doctor. I just play one.
You're like I've never heard of it before, but I don't want to say.
I don't know, bro. I don't want to make medical claims.
It can be.
I'm just here to talk about the Zizian.
All right, Lisa, you need to explain that in the chat, please.
Speaking of other folks who shouldn't make medical claims, whose dining room do you think this is?
Oh, yikes!
Yours?
It's a weird dining room, right?
I've been to your house, dude. Remember?
Some spook. I don't know. Some
shot that AR-15, bro. What's up?
I shot that one on the.
See that blue hippo in the background? I killed that thing.
Yeah, we hung it up in the back.
Let me take a wild guess. It's Elon Musk's room.
Ooh, that's actually not a bad guess. I have to find out what his dining room looks like.
Oh,
it's not Elon Musk. That's a good guess.
The Facebook dude.
Ooh, I like where your all's head's at. Yeah. Silicon Valley, I like it. This seems like the dark dining room of a Silicon Valley billionaire.
Peter Thiel?
I do agree.
I mean, I don't know.
Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil dines here in this room.
Really?
Wow.
Fucking psychopath Dr. Phil looking at these guns.
And he's into purple blue hippopotamuses. Wow.
Dude, this guy's got some skeletons in his closet, that's all I'm saying.
What the fuck? Is that a Care Bear? What the hell is that?
Right?
Yeah, what is it? It almost looks like, is that like Lego, dude? Type thing?
What the fuck? Is that like a Lego Care Bear? Or is that like
look at the dark one, too.
It's like such a schizo fucking decorations, dude. Like the guns, the weird anime stuff, dude. Like,
oh man, how many dead prostitutes does he have in his basement?
Right?
Right.
Dude, I heard the basement's filled up. They're buried out back now.
Man.
Yo, there was I saw recently, it was a joke. I mean, who knows with Dr. Phil? I don't know. But
this is weird. I mean, I'm getting weird vibes from this. I think if I walked into this, I'd run the hell out. I'd say, what the hell? And no thanks.
Like, oh, is this where you work?
What are you saying, Nick?
I saw a reel recently where there was a show where some chick came on the show and actually accused him of being in the Illuminati.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, it was one of the shows. And I was like, yo, what? You literally brought her on.
I think this would even make Adam Weishaupt creep out. Wow.
Whoa. Dude, I'm not even sure if Dahmer would dine here, dude. This is fucking creepy, dude. Some dark shit going on in this dining room, bro.
Yeah, this would make Marquis de Sade feel kind of uncomfortable.
Dude, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know what's going on Dr. Phil's brain hole, but it ain't good. Probably a lot similar to Alan Dershowitz, dude. This is in Alan Dershowitz's living room. This old granny sex doll. While he's giving a 60 Minutes interview defending Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew from diddling young females.
I wonder what Lex Wexner's tiny room looks like.
Dude, he probably has his own granny sex doll, dude.
I got a few.
You know what the suspicion about Lexner was? That he was gay.
Really?
Yeah. They were saying that about him. At least they said that in that Victoria's Secret documentary they did on him.
I feel like it's probably like those guys look at it different. You know what I mean? You know.
They were saying that Epstein and Wexner, they were hinting and insinuating that may have had some kind of relationship with one another.
I have no doubt, dude. Sexual freaks, right? Sexual freaks.
I don't know about that, but
what are your thoughts on Wexner?
I think
the man no one ever talks about.
I think he's hiding a lot of secrets, and he purposely keeps off the radar for reasons. And he's probably backing a lot of the prominent Zionists that they don't want you to know about. And in addition to that, he funds a lot of prominent Zionists. I'll just say that. Don't want to get your stream taken down for that, but that's probably true. How dare you? How dare I? How dare I point out Lex Wexner's Zionist connection?
He's a very prominent figure amongst a lot of different communities, but one of the things that weirds me out is that he held his mother's memorial service at a Jewish center there in New Albany, a Jewish center that he's donated a lot of money to. That Jewish center is named after its founder, the great grandfather of one of the Columbine shooters. It's weird.
And also his wife, Abigail Wexner, her father was one of the founders of the Likud.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a very prominent right-wing Jewish, I should say Israeli, right-wing group in Israel.
Okay. Why is it that no one talks about Les Wexner?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe he has a lot of connections. I mean, that's just like people saying Epstein wasn't any kind of agent of any sort. I mean, that's not even tinfoil. That's kind of agreed. I mean, there's Epstein's also potentially, it was like, he's possibly an informant too. Wouldn't you say?
How dare
he got a slap on the wrist in 2000 and when? Before the whole before the whole ordeal with 2007, before the whole ordeal of 2019 when he got unalived.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I do recommend
people watch the documentary for sure.
And it's kind of interesting, Les Wexner's ties to the whole U.S. Air that you were pointing out that I had also learned about from that documentary, that they moved it all the way from Miami to Columbus, as you stated. It had many run-ins for the CIA during the Contra affair. It's kind of interesting.
Kind of interesting. Like Bill Cosby used to live across the street from Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein. What do you think went down there?
I don't know. Is that true? I don't know. Maybe
about 40 feet door to door, friend. What do you think about that?
Maybe
pudding pops.
Yeah, maybe they wanted a pudding pop with a special ingredient.
I heard they put Jello pudding pops out of business over there at the Epstein Wexner residence.
With this secret ingredient.
Yeah, he lived right across the street, man. It's kind of odd, right?
That is odd.
Oh man,
that is odd, indeed.
He was dosing people then with them.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like what went down over there, right?
Yeah, all three of Cosby and people.
Yeah.
How about?
Well, I just want to say I believe what's her name, Maria Farmer.
Yeah, you do. Okay.
I do.
What part of her story?
I believe all of it.
All of it. Okay.
I don't think she's lying.
She was the one that was shipped from Manhattan to New Albany?
No, I think she had some connection to Ohio State, and she was courted by the Guggenheim, this Guggenheim woman, and then she was taken to Les Wexner's property, which was Epstein's house that he sold for $1 to Epstein, and
the Manhattan property.
No, the New Albany property. guest
she
house.
started off in the Manhattan property. They shipped her to New Albany. They traded houses during that transaction.
Yeah. She was an art student. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, during that transaction, Epstein Epstein was living out of the guest house until that transaction in New Albany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is the mid '90s when he's making all them trips to the White House to see Bill Clinton.
Yeah. But just to clarify, I didn't say that Abigail Wexner's father founded the Likud. He was one of the co-founders.
Yeah.
He's one of the co-founders of the ultra-right Israeli group, the Likud. I just got to be exact. It's
How about this guy?
Who is that?
Howard Lutnick. Dude, you don't know the current Commerce Secretary for Donald Trump? Dude, come on, man.
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't follow politics. I'm sorry.
Yeah, especially the Commerce Secretary, right?
You think Maria Farmer? I mean, that's interesting. You think Maria Farmer is a fraud? Okay.
I got a lot of questions. We can break that down in a future show if you'd like to, Doc.
I actually do want to talk about that on an extra show. I'd like to know the evidence about Maria Farmer. I'm just going off like her interview she did with Nick Bryant and some of the allegations. I'm inclined to believe her though because of she could be a fraud. I don't know.
Well, you start looking into Wexner's New Albany connections, and it turns out he got his previous Epstein, the guy that was Epstein before Epstein that worked for him. He got that dude murked by a Genovese crime family, according
that's true.
According to the Columbus PD.
That's correct.
Yeah, gets real weird. Howard Lutnick used to share a wall with Wexner and Epstein there at the Manhattan townhouse. He was on the other side of the wall. He lived directly across from Cosby. He was even closer to Cosby.
Oh man, that is interesting. Wow.
We got a Howard Lutnick Jello pudding pop fucking surprise party for Hillary Clinton apparently in her presidential campaign in 2016. Big money fundraiser at Howard Lutnick's house. Epstein's still around. Cosby's still there. Everybody's in town. Let's have some Jello pudding pops.
That is interesting. Well, my personal opinion about Epstein and Wexner is that it's a cover for a lot of the human trafficking that's going on in Ohio anyway. It's like ranked 4th in the entire nation. And if you know about like Portsmouth, Ohio, there was a bunch of women there that was being trafficked there. And nobody ever talks about it in the media except me, of course, not to toot my own horn. But I mean, I think that's a cover. One of the local people, Mike Moran, has ties to Ohio State, and there's no doubt the guy was such a fixture in like Portsmouth, Ohio, that there's little doubt that he moved in the same circles as a lot of Les Wexner and Epstein's group. And I was corresponding with a woman named Angela Clemente, and she just disappeared all of a sudden. She was trying to get the Epstein files, which I'm planning on talking about on another podcast, and probably even on Operation OCD sometime.
Bro, dude, GCD, easy there, fella. GCD, come on down anytime though with it.
My bad, man, my bad.
I like where your head's at there, Doc.
Yeah, but my bad, OCD. I feel like I have OCD after talking about the Zizians, man. It's like it's
on that note, what do you think of this? What do you think is going on here? Is that Barack Obama?
Wow, is that him?
It's alleged to be. I'll tell you the backstory on this photo. I want to get your fellow's opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's been allegations it's not him. So this picture was taken by a young artist who happens to live in Huntington, Vermont, a town I spent every summer of my life in, including most as an adult. She's from the neighboring town of Richmond. I tracked it down on her Instagram. Was it her Instagram? It was her Instagram. Back when this happened, this photo somehow became public in like 2016. She confirmed herself that this was a photo of Barack Obama. So what this young artist is doing, when I say young, maybe 6-8 years younger than me. So probably like, we'll call her 40, maybe 5 years younger than me. We'll call her 40 now. But this was 10 years ago almost now. So I say young artist. What is she doing? Hanging out with these folks in, places like Vermont where the Zizians seem to find refuge, and so do other weird trans Tifa cults, like the guy from the Flash movie, Ezra Miller. He had a trans Tifa cult going on in Vermont too.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
His was down in Bennington. Oh, dude, that dude's a creepy son of a bitch. He threatened to kill a 14-year-old in front of her parents at game night in some town in Massachusetts. Really bizarre story, dude. Really,
that's a good rabbit hole. Ezra Miller. That's good. It's a good rabbit hole. I haven't really looked down it. But,
it's dark. It's dark.
I don't know, all this dark stuff. It makes me, wants to take a shower and just I don't know, just watch I mean, all the stuff that
speaking of dark stuff, Granny Sex Dolls of Alan Dershowitz. What do you think of this one?
That's Maria Abramovich, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Allison Mack,
sir.
huh?
Yes,
Allison
sir.
Mack, huh?
Yes, sir.
The good old Allison Mack that branded all of those Nexia members. Wow,
yes,
wow,
sir.
wow.
I believe this was tweeted out about a month before she was arrested.
Whoop.
Weird, right?
Maria Abramovich. You guys ever done an episode on Maria Abramovich?
No, I don't think so. Really, she's been.
That is strange. That is strange. She is strange.
Yeah,
for sure. She ties into Silicon Valley.
Does she?
Yeah, remember right at the start of Cough shutdown 5 years ago. 5 years ago, Microsoft was running an ad this time 5 years ago starring Maria Abramovich.
Oh, she bathes in the blood like Elizabeth Bathory, huh?
Who's that?
Some Hungarian.
The vampire?
Yeah, the vampire woman from the from the Middle Ages.
Was that what that was?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's an obsession with it. You know, we covered that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. We talked about it in the vampire episode.
That's right. That's right. And now you're refreshing my memory through all the malted hops and bong resin covering my brain hole here. You know, because there is this onset of these vampire cults today too, not just the trans Tifa cults. There's been some homicidal vampire cults popping off too, right?
If you look at Sin Seriously, Ziz's blog, and I do recommend if you want to have your mind bended, or maybe not, I don't know. This audience could probably handle it. If you look at Sin Seriously, Ziz talks all about vampires as well. Oh. Ziz talks all about vampires and refers to like the people at Less Wrong and some of the rationalist people as being vampires.
I did not know that. That's an interesting crossover, right?
Yep.
But yeah, this is April 2020. Microsoft deletes Marina Abramovic advertisement after right-wing outcry over alleged Satanism. Alleged.
Are they kidding? The right wing is all over that. Certain aspects of the right wing.
You're saying the but it's always sold as right wingers with attacking the satanic movement, right? The whole satanic panic. Crazy.
It depends how you define the right. I mean,
they're going for the Christian angle, right? The crazy evangelicals, right? Isn't that what this is?
Yeah. But the COS are really into might is right and some of the kind of eugenics kind of stuff. They were all into that stuff. The Church of Satan.
Oh.
I should say that's more kind of neo-Nazism stuff.
Sure.
I don't associate them with the right per se, but
gents, I feel like we should probably bring this Fridaze to a close. I definitely appreciate both y'all's participation and enjoyed the conversation. Definitely appreciate it. We'll turn it over to both of y'all for some closing statements, if you will.
Let Nick go.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me on. It was good,
host, bro.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad you brought Doc on. It was fun to talk about the Zizians again. I actually totally forgot that I asked Doc. I was like, "Yo, what are we talking about tonight?" He's like, "The Zizians." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's." I'm fucking dude. My ass working on this documentary, editing. Oh my god, my fucking brain's melted. So sorry, but yeah, it was a nice like, oh yeah, I forgot, and that was a good talk. It was really interesting seeing all the things that you brought up. There's things that I didn't know about, and the chat really seemed to be really into it. So I thought
they were really active.
Yeah. So this was great. I really enjoyed it, man. Thank you very much. And real quick, I'm thinking it might be live, but Sunday night, actually, me and Lisa are going on Reality Stars to talk about the Zizians.
Nice.
I think they stream out live somewhere. So any of the Occult rejects that are listening, I think we will be over there with them Sunday night. That and thanks again. Awesome time, and check out the Occult Rejects. It's on all major podcasts and YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble.
All
Mormons
right,
Part
guys.
3 coming out, right?
Huh?
Mormons Part 3.
Oh yes, we're going to be recording that. Not this sweet Saturday.
Oh, was that another week?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm
Yeah,
excited for it.
I wish. I really would have liked to, but my week was so busy with shows and editing and stuff. I didn't even think about trying to put that in for tomorrow. Yeah, I wish.
I just listened to the part 2 we did. I think that's it's not the same old Mormon talk, right? As far as discussing some of the politics of the Mormon business.
No, she's really excited to come back on too. And I was I said, as long as this series because she was even giving me ideas about having you add in down the road with something that you were talking about. And I said, listen, as long as this takes, we'll keep going, because it's like really blowing shit.
It's an ongoing narrative.
Yeah, it is really interesting stuff. I love it. So. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank the audience. I want to thank JJ, and I want to thank Nick, of course, and for putting up with my autism. And hopefully, I didn't mispronounce too many words, get too many facts wrong. You can @ me on Twitter if you disagreed with anything I said. So I appreciate all of it, all the schizoid madness of the Zizians. We tried to cover as best as possible as we can. So I appreciate it, audience and everybody. And by the way, check out my YouTube. Demento Mori, make sure to check that out, because I don't think I've shielded enough. I'm going to start making podcasts, I promise. I'm dragging my feet on all that, but life happens, and maybe I'll talk about stuff like the Zizians and some of the other stuff, just to tell people what my podcast's about. It's about apocalypticism, parapolitics, and now it's about the greater craziness of the internet and all of the stuff surrounding internet. It might be everything from cults to snuff to even internet serial killers, all that dark subject matter that all the mainstream media is afraid to tackle. So check me out.
I definitely got to check that
everything's computer, Doc. Everything's computer.
Yeah, I'm making sure I don't get caught up in the Rocco's basilisk,
There you go.
I don't want to get plunged into eternal hell by Rocco's basilisk. Might say they're Zizian, the rationalist assassins.
I appreciate both of your gentlemen's time and conversation. Definitely enjoyed it myself here. And Doc, if any folks of the interwebs want to check out some more Doc stuff, he's got a number of shows, not just on his podcast, or YouTube channel, which is in the show notes. But you've done at least 4 or 5 episodes on Operation GCD.
Oh yeah, and plenty, probably many more.
Well, definitely more.
I have an exclusive contract on Operation OCD.
GCD. Come on, man. Blowing up my name, dude. You're dead naming me, bro. What's up? You're dead naming me.
Naming you. Oh man, sorry. I didn't mean to misgender you, man.
I called you JD.
You misgendered me, bro. The Operation GCD Wednesday night live. Operation GCD live. There we go. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I got Jonathan Mitchell coming on to talk some more Ultimate Evil and the salute to Maury Terry's work, if you will.
I want to also say, check out our previous episodes too. I'm a little unpolished in those episodes, but I think I still did a pretty decent job.
I wouldn't recommend wouldn't recommend them otherwise, Doc. I wouldn't recommend them otherwise.
And I would say also, check out my stuff on the farm also. There you go. Some of the stuff that I've done, the deep dives that I've done with Recluse. I've done some good stuff over there, so check that out as well. And thanks for having me on, guys.
Yep. Thank you, Doc.
Awesome as usual.
Until next time.
Till next time.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, well, check your 6. Look in that garbage can, 'cause you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.